So if you're planning on buying a new car, right, or a new smartphone, or even trusting the US military to defend the US, right, over the next, let's say, 10 years, a massive headline just dropped a while ago that defines everything, literally. So the Trump administration just secured a historic economic victory against, is it something, is it Xi or Xi Jinping? I don't even know if I read that right, but this is in the heart of Africa, right? So, an American firm, Virtus Minerals, right, just seized control of a massive mining network in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, the DRC. This marks the first time in over a decade that the United States has successfully broken China's absolute monopoly on the raw tech materials required to build a modern world. But why is Washington suddenly treating a strip of land in Africa like a matter of supreme US national security? I mean, that is a question. But you know what? Let me break it down for you right here, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we go along. So, to understand this, we have to look at two words you're going to hear a lot, not only in this video but in the future as well. So specifically cobalt and copper, let's say. Now you might think of copper as just old plumbing pipes, especially if in the US or around the world, right? But in the 21st century, copper is industrial gold, literally. A standard gasoline car uses about 20 to about 50 pounds of copper, right? A single electric vehicle requires up to 200 pounds because of the massive wiring needed for the battery. Okay, the battery in South Africa, okay? Then there's cobalt. It is a super metal. I like to call it a literal vibranium type shit, not fictional. But anyways, let's continue, right? So without it, the high performance lithium ion batteries inside your iPhone, your laptop, or an EV would overheat and catch fire. But it goes deeper than just consumer tech. Cobalt is on the US government's official list of critical defense materials because it is mandatory for manufacturing jet engines, massive guidance systems, and advanced radar. But here is the terrifying catch, right? The Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, sits on 80% of the world's cobalt supply. And up until right now, right, China controlled a staggering 80% of that. Beijing essentially held the master key to the global tech and defense supply chains. But how? Well, for 20 years, Beijing played a long, patient game called infrastructure for minerals. Okay, so the DRC was cash strapped and recovering from war. Western banks refused to lend them money, so China stepped in and said, allegedly, we will build you roads and hospitals today, no questions asked, but in exchange, give us the tax-free rights to your mines. Worse yet, back in 2016, an American company actually owned the crown jewel of Congo's cobalt mines, but due to corporate mismanagement, they sold it. The Obama administration didn't intervene, and a Chinese state-backed company happily snatched it up. So the playbook was officially flipped. The Trump administration is executing a highly aggressive America First counter-offensive. So under a newly minted economic framework, Washington is using raw financial muscle and private sector partnership to explicitly box Beijing out. So probably asking yourself, okay, who's going to benefit from all this, right? The immediate beneficiary has or is the American consumer and the American worker. By securing these mines, right, Virtus Minerals has stated they will sell exclusively to American and Western aligned buyers. This creates a completely shielded supply chain from Chinese interference. If China decides to choke off mineral exports to cripple American automotive companies, the US now has an independent, secure pipeline. This stabilizes prices for your next phone and ensures US defense manufacturing never has to beg Beijing for military grade metals. But here's the provocative twist that I mentioned in the intro, right? The African nations that harbor these minerals will supposedly benefit as well. So this isn't they're just coming in and stripping everything. I'm not trying to fight nobody, right? For years, China operated on an opaque system, right? Extracting raw rocks, shipping them directly back to mainland China for refining, and leaving local communities with low wage, hazardous jobs, and incomplete infrastructure. The new US strategy is said to be forcing a different model. The US is finishing state-of-the-art processing plants directly in the DRC, creating high-quality, safer industrial jobs for locals, apparently, and routing the materials out via the brand new multi-billion-dollar US-funded Lobito Corridor rail network straight to the Atlantic Ocean. It's an alliance that gives Africa economic sovereignty while putting American interests first. What I'm asking myself is, why is there still war there? But anyways, Martin, you're deviating from the script. You're deviating from the script. You're not supposed to ask us questions. So now what happens next is the race against the clock, right? So the two primary mines secured in this deal, is it Mutushi and Etoile, I don't know, are scheduled to fully ramp up processing plants, right? So once active, they are projected to pump out 75,000 tons of copper and 25,000 tons of cobalt every single year. We are also going to see the Trump administration expand this blueprint, allegedly. So Washington has already signaled that this is just the first step in Project Vault, a massive public-private initiative backed by tens of billions of dollars to build an untouchable American strategic stockpile of critical materials. So now expect more aggressive behind-the-scenes deal brokering as the US hunts for lithium and rare earth materials across the globe. Bro, this is about to get good, right? But here is what the talking heads on cable news are getting completely wrong, right? They are framing this as a traditional war for total production volume, assuming that the US needs to outmine China everywhere on Earth, right? But this isn't completely true or completely false. It depends on your own perspective. The US doesn't need to match China's massive domestic volume. What this strategy is actually doing is creating a geopolitical exclusionary ecosystem. Yes, a geopolitically exclusionary ecosystem. The US isn't trying to control all the world's minerals, it's building an ironclad, or so they say, an independent supply chain that is 100% free of Chinese control, ensuring that American tech, American wallets, and American defense remain entirely self-sufficient. I'm not gonna lie to you, that is exciting. You know, that sounds exciting, you know, especially for America, but I'm just like, I'm not gonna sing through the BS.